Greetings. For my first exam mini video, I'm going to be doing prompt 2, which is the pedigree analysis, and my example is going to be based off of the Star Wars universe, specifically focused on the Skywalker family tree. And the trait that we're going to be discussing is whether or not you can use the Force, which we will delineate with big F and little f. Okay, so first we're going to go over autosomal and the possibilities that we have here. So both autosomals, both recessive and dominant worked. I'll just frame it here for a sec so everyone can see. But just to note, on the top left of both pedigrees, we look at Anakin's father, don't know the name, don't know who the guy is, don't know if he was a Force user or not, so I just kind of said, hey, I'm gonna lightly shade it in on the left, either big F, little f, or little f, just to show that he needed at least one little f to pass on to Anakin, and his mother had to have been heterozygous to pass it on as well, so he could be a Force user. In autosomal recessive, and then in dominant, his father, we also don't know exactly what his genotype is, but this time we do know that he had to have been a Force user because Anakin must have received at least one big F from one of his parents, and his mother is not a Force user, so she was little f, therefore we know that his father had to have been a Force user, but we don't know if he was homo or heterozygous for the trait. Okay, X-linked. So X-linked recessive did work. Once again, we don't know exactly his father's genotype, but in this case, he's receiving just the Y chromosome, so it doesn't really matter what his father was, because Anakin is only receiving the Y chromosome from him. And I lightly shaded it in again because, hey, he could have been a Force user, he could not have been. His mother had to have been heterozygous for it so that Anakin could receive a little f from his mother. And then over in X-linked dominant, it gets a little more tricky, and it doesn't work. Here we can see, once again, Anakin receives the Y chromosome from his father. Doesn't matter whether his father was big F or little f. He could have been a Force user, could not have been. But Anakin needs a little f, and Anakin needs a big F because we're dominant here to be a Force user. But his mother is not a Force user, and therefore, since we're talking dominant, she had to have been little f, and we know that the male offspring is going to 100% receive one of the mother's X chromosomes, and if she's both little f, then it's not possible for him to get a genotype that allows him to be a Force user. So that's one error. And then in Y-linked, I just wanted to show that the father passes on the trait on the Y chromosome, so the son is going to be the same as the father, and Han is not a Force user, but his son Ben is, therefore proving that it is not a Y-linked.